couple of minutes left, but I think that I'm sorry to hear about the stroke, incidentally.
Yes,
It was.
Suddenly the whole side of her body went, and she can still make signals.
And I mean, it's obviously we ought to talk about the end of your life, really. In later life, one often follows very quickly on the heels of the other.
No, well, whatever you like, really. But I really should give her a call.
Yes, Sir Arthur,
You can't pick up a phone now, of course. So they have to put it through loudspeakers into the ward.
Sir Arthur, you're quite clearly, to anyone who could see you, nearing the end of your life. Who will receive the greater part of your fortune?
I've made it very clear that all my assets go to a trust. I've often thought of giving all my money away, but then I've often thought again.
I've just had a rather entertaining thought of you dying, your last breath coming out of your mouth. How would you like that to happen?
Well,
I guess you sort of collapse on the floor somewhere in public, or...
You find the prospect of my dying very amusing.
Well, I don't... yes, I do.
Yes, you do. Yes. What about your own death? How do you view that?
I'm just
equal good humour.
Well, no, I wouldn't look as good lying on my back like a tortoise, sort of burbling fluids of some kind. Well, let's talk about prisons. Your report on prisons is published tomorrow. What's it going to say?
I think the key finding is that criminals are people who should not be treated with kid gloves. They are the dregs. And dregs should be kept at the bottom of the barrel, otherwise the wine will never get to the surface.
Is this in any way linked with your experience of your own father, who, as we know, was a profound criminal?
My father had criminal tendencies which he exercised to the full. It was a learning experience to be a child in my father's household, or whichever household he put me in. He was a very firm man, and he felt that the best education I could possibly have was to be put in prison and raised by hardened murderers. We were woken at dawn by the sound of hanging. We had to sleep naked because the warders feared that we might do ourselves injuries, stabbing ourselves with buttons and things like that. And we used to draw straws about which clothes we got into, because there was only 50 pairs of trousers and there were 400 inmates.
How did you as a 4-year-old fare amongst grown men in this scrabble for clothes?
I tended not to get any clothes. All 4-year-olds are not as big as 20-year-olds. So if I was lucky, I used to be put into somebody's pocket or stuffed down somebody's waistband. There was one particularly thin prisoner who I got to know as Uncle Edward. And he used to stuff me down his trousers every now and then and take me out to the turnip fields and jiggle me up and down.
Did you keep in touch with him after you left?
No, he died in the field, and I was left there for several days, because the policy in those days was if people died at work, it was taken to be dumb insolence, and so they were left as an example to the other prisoners.
Did you hold this against your father at all?
We never spoke about it. I must say that at the time I resented being in prison for crimes I had not committed, and forced into the company of, at best, rough diamonds, to be frank. Because I became prematurely old as a 4-year-old. I had the body of a 4-year-old and the mind of an 80-year-old.
You became a heavy smoker at the age of 4.
Yes, and this led to me falling out with Uncle Edward, because at 4 I was getting through 20 cigarettes a day in his trousers.
What contacts did you have with the outside world when you were in prison?
I used to see planes going over sometimes.
What did you think?
I thought I'd like to be in one of those. I really would. Anything in the air, I just long for that. The war came as a big relief.
Well, yes, you were conscripted, weren't you? At the age of, was it?
6. I joined the Foreign Legion, and I was stationed just outside of Tunis with a bunch of Belgians.
Now, you were fighting alongside Rex Harrison at one point.
Yes, Rex was awfully brave. He could have been an actor, you know, but he preferred the army. He preferred to be side by side with legionnaires singing in French.
Could he sing?
Rex could never sing, and this is another sign of his courage, that later in life, when most people would have considered themselves past it, let alone able to sing, he started to sing and got money for it.
When did you re-establish contact with your father, then?
When my father learnt that I had become buddies with Rex Harrison, he wrote me a letter asking if he could meet Rex. And I, of course, said I would try and arrange it. And I did. He met Rex. I wasn't there, of course. He didn't want to meet me. He said he'd already met me and hadn't liked what he'd seen.
Now, when he met your father, they fought.
They had a skirmish, because my father suggested to Rex that they collaborate on a musical for Esther Williams. And my father thought if he could get her and Sonia Henney together, they could combine underwater and ice. So Esther would be under the ice and Sonia on top of the ice. So you'd have this combination of a woman frozen underwater looking up through the ice, up Sonia Henney's little skirt. And Rex thought it was a wonderful idea and took it to Louis B. Mayer. And that's the last my father heard of it.
Is this in any way associated with the episode in which you were forced to stand on a frozen lake by your father?
He suggested I stand in the middle of Lake Ontario during a particularly bleak winter in Canada. And I stood there, and I was waiting for a whistle or something, some sort of signal that I could go to the shore. And the whistle never came.
How long were you there for?
About a year and a quarter. Anyway, I really don't like talking about this sort of thing, because it was all a long time ago, and my memory of it is very detailed. I can remember every single pine needle on that trudge through the forest towards Toronto.
I hope you won't mind if I hold you to it, because the next time we want to interview, you'll probably be dead. Apart from the perilous cold, what other dangers did you have to fight off?
Well, possibly the most dangerous element of the stay, as I call it, were the bears. Because, strictly speaking, they're not vegetarians. And it was hard at times to fob them off.
But you succeeded, and furthermore, in time, became respected by them.
I became loved by the bears, yes. It was when an old granny bear had come round one evening. She was on her last legs and wheezing, and bits of fur were falling out. She was really in a very bad way. And I nestled up to her, gave her, I think it was a fish finger I had in my hamper, and she gasped with pleasure and fell to the ice and expired. And it was then that I skinned her and put her fur on me and basically masqueraded as a bear for 9 months.
And how did you end up leaving the ice?
I decided to walk off.
How do you think during that time fallen in love with frozen water?
There was a certain bleak beauty about the place which appealed to me. And even now, years and years later, in the middle of the night I'll get up and go to the fridge, get out an ice cube and just perch on it, just to bring back those memories, like Proust used to dip his biscuits in his tea.
Right. Sorry it took a bit longer this evening.
No, that's all right. I must say you're fairly persistent in that particular line of questioning.
Yes, I like to...
really feel I was being grilled.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. It was
No,
just...
no. I like to meet somebody who treats me very badly.